see the duckweed already? Look at that. Today, it's come to my attention that we've actually hit 500 subscribers right here on YouTube. If we can get that to 1K as well, we're going to have to do something really big as a thank you to all of you. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any ideas and we'll get prepared ready. But first, if you'd like to see me turn this into this, stay tuned. But for now, let's rewind a little bit. I know a lot of you at home will immediately recognise this tank and completely understand why I'm so excited to get stuck in. And I know those of you with ADHD will understand why this mad excitement has actually stopped me from getting started. So, I've got a coffee in hand, I've got my Hardscape around me, let's get stuck in. For anyone that may not be familiar with the Fluval Flex, these have been in the top tier of smaller aquariums for literal decades, and there's numerous reasons as to why they've kept that place. Here I don't just have any Fluval Flex, I've got the 2.0. This is one that caught my eyes as soon as it came out on the market, and I'm absolutely made up to be able to not just own one, but share it with you guys as well. Two of the main features of this tank that got me super excited when I first seen it. Which side are we on? We have double outlet nozzles and a spray bar to choose from. We're going to have no dead spots in this tank. But we do also have loads of other cool features as well. But the main reason this tank gets the credit that it does deserve, wrong way, is this filtration system that you can see here. This is hands down one of the best designed tanks on the whole market. And this one not only comes with its own media, but you get interchangeable baskets where you can modify it to add more of your own. So that's something we will be getting stuck into very shortly. Another little bonus amongst the many massive ones of this filter system is that everything is hidden, as you can see. Or you can't see, I should say, that's the whole point. So you've got your heater, your pump, absolutely everything hidden away around the back. And you've got your super smart black backing to hide it all. Talking modern in look, modern in design, and modern in the results. But it's the sheer capacity of that integrated sump filtration that impresses me the most. As well as this beautiful curved front glass. Secondly, the question I know you're all waiting to ask, what have I put in this tank? And the answer, nothing. As I said from the start, I'm going to show off every tip and trick I have to offer, but I'm also going to share any problems I may face along the way, as well as any positives. And straight off the bat, I've hit a problem. If you'd like to find out where I went wrong, what I could have done to prevent it, and what I'm currently doing to rectify it, stay tuned for my next video. I will pop the link in the description when it is ready. I'll explain all of this for you in there. Last but not least, I'm going to move this beautiful Flex onto the table behind me so that you guys can have a nice front row seat of me scaping. Going to get into some good habits off the bat. I'm going to use NT Labs glass cleaner to get my fingerprints off our pretty glass. It's no effort from us, and it makes, for scaping purposes and when I do my maintenance when we're back on the rack, I'm going to be taking the lid off. Super easy. If we pop up our feeding port just to make it easier to grip, you'll see here, like so. Get it into place, get a hold of our feeding port here. And we're gonna give it a gentle little pull, and we're gonna pop this in a safe place. See what goodies you've got. come back to them. That pump is a lot bigger than I was expecting it to be. You really are going to get a good flow out of this. Got a little bit of soundproofing as well, always handy. Even the pipework's massive. Wow. These are the bits I'm most excited for. Got a spray bar and double outlet that we can even change direction of. Now this is why we've got such a powerful pump. To be honest, I'm super excited to play with the light, but I think I'm even more excited to play with the flow of this tank. Speaking of our lights, got a cool little remote. It's even got thunderstorm setting. So like our Eheim we looked at last week, another fantastic tank. Both of them allow us to replicate the natural light cycles of our fish in the wild. This is how we're going to get the best character, breeding behaviour, etc. of our fish by making them as comfortable as we can in our tanks at home. Left in here we have our polycarb. Helps keep our water nice and crystal clear. And another part I'm very, very excited for, our baskets. These here allow us to further modify the filtration, adding in more biological media. This is what I mean when I say the capacity is stupidly impressive. It's that efficient, you can actually convert this to salt water very easily. Them ones we're going to come back to a little bit later. Now we're going to get scaping. One last very important thing I forgot to mention earlier is this mat you can see here. This is actually the first thing that I did when I got the aquarium out of the box, is attach this onto the bottom. The reason a mat is so important for any glass bottom tank is that it's this that's going to protect it from the likes of, say, even a little piece of sand that will put pressure on our glass and risk damaging it down the line. Fluval are amazing, thank you. And have sent us a mega aquascape set. I have got a step ahead and I have opened it. The second I took a look, an idea immediately come to mind. So I've actually got a different plan in store for this. Now I'm going to have to pick a new hardscape. Give you a little sneak peek. This is just one of many, and there's so much more in there than I was expecting. I'm super excited. I personally like to start with wood if I'm using wood and escape. I feel like the positioning of that determines the positioning of everything else, if that makes sense. It's a very nice piece, but it's too tall. But it's the kind of too tall where you really don't want to cut it either. Not actually mad at that. The only part of doing it that way is that the main bulk of the wood is on the inner side and we've got the back on the outside. Might make a bit more sense closer up. That, to me, looks like the front of that piece of wood. That is how we'd be seeing it. But I'm actually looking at that right now and I'm picturing plants in that inner part. I feel like that might fill that bit of space nicely. So you might be able to tell by how the substrate is stuck to them. But these are 2 pieces out of one of my old tanks. Like them, as I should like them. I remember paying £20 each for these, but you can see why I paid it. They are also very nice pieces of wood. As we move on to substrate, I'll be using Fluval Stratum, but which stratum do I use? And what is the difference between them? Here we have the original, here we have the biostratum. Both these substrates are a volcanic soil, so as you can imagine, they've got many similarities. These include their ability to naturally soften your water, perfect for your shrimp and your black water species, but they're also fantastic for our plants. Not just because they make it super easy to physically plant into, but they're also rich and packed full of nutrients ready for our plants to absorb. There are 2 main differences between these 2. One, key is in the name. The biostratum does contain a biological boost to kickstart our nitrogen cycle. Well, it contains dormant bacteria that when we add our water, it becomes active again. What this is going to do is kickstart that nitrogen cycle for us and give us a head start. The grade of these 2 substrates are also slightly different, with our biostratum being that little bit finer, with a lot of people reporting it being easier to plant into, even more so. The one I'm personally going to be choosing today is our biostratum. If any of you haven't guessed why, I'm actually going to be using our biostratum to help cycle our aquarium. I'll also be using a few Fluval products that are personally new to myself, so it'll be pretty fun to test these out and keep everyone in the loop. None of these substrates need capping, but I've decided I'd quite like a light base for today's scape, so going to get creative. Here I have the cardboard for my new aquascaping kit, and today I'm going to be trying the old school cardboard method. I've never tried this before, so it could either be a big success or a complete failure. Let's find out. All I've done is tape it together and fold the end so that I'm getting the shape that I want. In fact, I'm going to actually take that in a little bit further. Something like that. What I'm also going to do is add a little layer of our planted substrate that I've taken out of our aquascaping sets. I'm going to be using this alongside my biostratum just to make it a little bit airier, with me choosing to cap it off with sand. Not personally used this substrate before, but it genuinely smells like a garden centre, so I've got a feeling it's going to be pretty good. So the aim is to use our sand to trap that piece of cardboard in and hopefully keep it in place. If anyone heard that noise, that was a little bit of dragon stone. I've actually used this sand for a dojo. There's the piece of dragonstone. So a little tip with substrate: if you do choose to use bare sand, I'd highly recommend not going any deeper than, say, an inch or so. It's a completely different story if we're looking to plant our aquarium. But like here, if we've got plain sand, I'd really recommend keeping that Nice and shallow is to prevent any nasty gases and bits building up. They're super fine grades, so I can completely understand why the plants absolutely love the stuff. A little bit nervous, but this is a two-hand job. Ooh, not bad at all, other than that tiny little bit in the corner. Don't think any of that's mixed. Use my Hugo Commission tool just to very gently brush up from where most of the sand is sitting. So dehydrated, I've just realised I've not drank water all day. I've just drank that so fast, I've spilt half it down myself. But if anyone needed the reminder to drink water, you're welcome. So my problem is that I've actually got too much choice, which is a dilemma I don't think I've had before. Ideally, I'd like to go minimalistic on the wood and have the plants become that main centerpiece as they grow. This was the piece that was first in my mind to use. As you can see, it's got a ton of character. Just think it's too wide, it's too clumpy for what I need. So I think I've made my decision. This is how we're looking as of current. Thinking with a few little pebbles or some nice rocks to build that little bit of height up, and I think there's loads of area there for the plants to still be the main focus. Scared of that. That wood fits perfectly on that rock, but it's right where I wanted to plant. Decisions. Love having them, hate making them. Some of you might remember while gluing our hardscape together last time, I'd mentioned that Moss do a compound that I've not tried. Mark has been very kind and sent some out for us to test. We have 3 colours: driftwood gold, earth brown and stone grey. Today we're going to be using the stone grey. These compounds will do for terrariums, paludariums, vivariums, you name it. Probably even the ornament your kids broke. So our compound you want to use in conjunction with our hardscape glue. This is the liquid glue. And that is what we're looking like. Looks like it's going to be a really weird texture. Oh, it is. Oh, it feels quite nice. I'm going to put that down. What I'm going to do is pop our compound in our contact points between the wood and the rock. Just still got a few more rocks to add, some scatter gravel and a good few plants. It is starting to take shape. As you can see, I've used an absolute ton of the compound to make sure that wood was stuck onto that rock solid. And despite me using an absolute handful, still barely noticeable at all. Whereas if I'd used the toilet roll like last time, we'd be able to see them parts from the other side of the room. Quite impressed. All of this Java has been gifted to us by Kraken Aquacare. It's like he knew I was looking for that in particular, isn't it? Thank you very much, Mike. If any of you at home aren't familiar with Java fern, this one in particular is the narrow leaf version. And it is also one of the easiest plants in the whole hobby to grow. For that reason, this is one of the top 3 plants I'd recommend for beginners. Nice and pretty. But one thing that can sometimes put people off in a shop is that, do we see those little black bits on the leaves? Oh, there's one there to show. But if we look closely, for example, those little black bits are actually where the new growth is forming. So if we bear with that slightly ugly stage, we can get little babies like this. Once they reach, say, so big, what I like to do is gently pluck them off, and then you can pop that back down and replant it. Them being an epiphyte species, these do not need planting in soil, and they will grow more than happily attached onto wood and rock. Here's an example of a little bunch of babies that's a bit bigger than the one I've just plucked off. Yeah, it grows brilliant. Another reason why it's handy to take these babies off as they grow is that they can starve the main plant of its food source. So say if we let these get too big, the plants will actually start to go black and die off. So it's handy to be able to differentiate between a plant suffering and a plant popping out little babies, as we see here. So say it's one of the easiest plants in the whole hobby to grow. Nice and low light, not particularly fussy, and for all of you that have got those plant-eating fish, it's also meant to have a bitter taste. This means it's less likely to get eaten by our plant eaters. I can say from my experience, it's still got eaten in my tank of my dollars and my Severum, but I know of loads of occasions where it has worked. It's one of those, a bit of trial and error. Ready to get planting, I've got my jug of water, spray bottle, poly lid and some plants. One thing I've learnt from experience is to hold your plants up in the spaces you think you're going to put them before you actually stick them down. I'm so indecisive, there's been times where I've unintentionally delayed my plants settling in because I've moved them around too many times. So Java's cool because unlike other plants, you can literally just wedge it into the gaps between your wood and it'll just grow over time. Doesn't need trimming either. If you do like to cut it down, it's a case of cutting the rhizome down. Important to keep our plants wet during the scaping process so we keep them happy. This is also going to help with our stem plants, as I find by wetting our substrate, it just makes everything so much more easy to plant. Every piece of this Java has just been wedged into the holes in the wood. I wasn't actually going to glue any of it down, and to be honest I don't think I have to, but just want to give it that little bit of security so I don't have to mess around with it once it's on the rack. Same ball game as last time, little blob is all I find it needs. As I say, it will naturally attach on itself over time, especially if you've got a nice little gap to wedge it into like I have here. Got a really good habit of gluing plants to myself. Massive root balls. Same again, just a few little delicate blobs. Despite the fact the whole plant's massive, that's going to be more than enough to hold it down. As I say, work smarter now. There's less work for us to do down the line. It's been a few times in the past where I've put a load of time and effort into Escape, but I've not secured it properly, and then say over the next 12 months I've watched it all fall apart and had to, you know, tweak around with it constantly. Whereas again, the better we prepare at the beginning, less work there is for us to do down the line. Got a proper dilemma off the bat, and every one of my plants here is covered in duckweed, and it's completely my fault. So I've stored these in my planted tank for the last few days while I've got bits together, and my planted tank has got duckweed in. So I was taking them out, every single one of them's got duckweed on. My biggest tip would be avoid duckweed like wildfire. You'll see why later down the line. Anyway, I'll be starting off with Limnophila sessiflora, which is this one here. Just from being in my tank for a couple of days, this has literally doubled in size, and that's not an exaggeration in the slightest. This is one of the easiest plants in the whole hobby to grow, one of the fastest growing, and it's got a really nice texture to it. You can see the duckweed already. Look at that. Change your mind, and I'm going to try and rinse off some duckweed, otherwise known as the devil in aquatics. So looking at the state of this, 100% there is going to be duckweed in that tank. But it is what it is. Duckweed isn't all bad. It's really, really good at consuming like nitrates, and it'll do so heavily. The issue we have with duckweed is that it'll also multiply like there is no tomorrow. Once you've got it, it is very difficult to get rid of. Same again with our pots. You want to give them a little squeeze. This helps them pop out nice and easy. Usually. Got a nice root system off the bat. That's what we like to see. And the bit I really enjoy. What I'm going to do is, even though there's not much rock wool on here, I'm still going to give it a little rinse in our jug of water, just to get off a little bit of that muck so our plants don't rot. Gone for 2 of those for today. Also chosen a Lismachia species. Again, we've got another completely different leaf shape. It's nice to have a bit of contrast. Don't panic at the look of that at the bottom. We have got some rotted leaves, but I can also see, if it'll focus, we've also got some fresh rooting in between that. So I'm gonna, there we go. A nice Ludwigia species. So add a little splash of red without being too difficult. So it is one that is going to thank us for CO2 down the line, but doesn't necessarily need it. Any plant will thank you for CO2, especially when used in conjunction with some nice plant foods. Personally love the Eheim range. I've used that for absolute years, but I'm very excited to try this out. I've heard some super good things. The joys of the Fluval plant grow is that it is an all-in-one. So I can literally dose that and not have to worry about all these different bits and bobs to put in different times of the week. So we'll see if it works as effective as the others. Let's get planting. I'm going to be using my Hugo Commishi tweezers for this one in particular, just because we've got some really fine stems and they've got some really fine tips. Start with the limnophilia. I'm going to be planting it individually. And what I'd recommend with stem plants is not to go and plant them in a big bunch like that. What that is going to do is make all of these roots and all them stems compete in the exact same space for space, lighting, etc. So you want to spread them out so that they've all got a good chance of getting food from your substrate. They've all got a good chance of getting some light without shading each other, and they look a lot better. Just going to quickly split these up into taller and smaller pieces so I can get a little bit of height difference going on. The downside of this is that we're not going to get that off the bat finished look, but it is going to make them do a lot better down the line. So all I'm doing here is holding the other plants out my way so I can see where I'm actually planting them. Usually helps. I think Lismachia gives a bit of a four-leaf clover vibe. Even though it's a completely different shape, that's what it makes me think of, for some reason. Just robbed a load of hydrocotyle from my planted tank. It's going to look quite nice with the Lismachia. Look at that. The reason I love hydrocotyle is that it'll actually grow immersed as well as submersed. In other words, it'll grow out the top of your tank, not just in it. So I'm just trying to clump together as many of them roots as I can to give it a good chance, but really I should split it all up. But hydrocotyle is something that you need to keep trimmed down, as it is known for getting very leggy. My planted tank is doing the complete opposite, even though I've abandoned it recently. But yeah, it'll thank you for a lot of trimming, and it'll thank you for CO2 as well. That's how I've got mine growing, as wild as I have. As you can see, we've moved. I'd never ever recommend scaping a tank that isn't situated where it's going to be. The last thing you want to do is move a tank with absolutely anything in it, as this does put pressure on your glass and your silicone. It's time to add my scatter gravel and get filling. These are mixed pieces I broke up earlier. I'm just gonna... One thing I have forgot, my cryptocorin parva. So what I'm going to do is get this planted in between the scatter gravel. So I've gone for a tropical pot. So what I'm going to do, if anyone isn't familiar with tissue culture plants, these are plants that are grown in a lab. So you've got a little bit of gel at the bottom here, and I've got my jug of water to get it off. These are guaranteed pest-free, snail-free, etc. Did that just go in it? Yeah, really good head start. They might cost a little £1 or £2 more than your average potted plant, but you actually get a lot more in the tubs than I think you're doing in your normal pots. And who doesn't want to pay more at the beginning to save yourself money on all pest snail treatments down the line and algae treatment? Work smart, not hard. Or a bit of both, ideally. I'm going to get this, and just like the others, same principle. Just going to give it a good little massage, and as I'm doing it, I'm going to break these up gently. There's actually, as you can see, loads of different plants in here. These are a smaller species of cryptocorin, so they're not going to get too much height on them, so I'm going to use them as my foreground plants. Another nice, easy plant to grow, low light, not too fussy, and they've got a great effect. Start with a nice chunky one. It'd help if I didn't try to plant it into a rock. May have got slightly ahead of myself. So I'm gonna get our bits and bobs in now. I'm definitely going to utilise the opportunity to modify our filter and add some more media in. But whether or not I can physically use them baskets with the access I've given myself, I'm not too sure. Let's see. Can't stress just how cool this is, but you really can change the direction of your flow in every possible way. Really smart piece of kit. Let's get it filled. So our polycarb going in. If it'll fit. I've got one in, I've found a method. Woo! Moment's truth. Just about. Don't think rubber baskets are going in there, unfortunately though. Very conscious of our plants drying out, so I'm going to get filling before we start talking filtration. Tanks like this, what I'd usually do is tip this into the back pump section, but I can't reach, I don't think, the way I've positioned this tank. Oh no, look at that. This is exactly what I was hoping for. It turns out that it was actually quite difficult for accessing there, so I'm doing a nice old classic method. I'm using my hand. All this is doing is dispersing the water, so it's not hitting one spot. Time to do our media. With access being a little bit restrictive, I thought I'd use my head, and I'm actually going to use one basket. I'm Going to put more media in, but I'm going to be using a media bag. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the basket sat in there. This one I know I can get out. I'm going to have my media bag sat on top, and on top of that, I'm going to add my sponge. Media of choice for today, we've got BioFX. Fantastic media, it's super porous. So we've got loads of area space to house our bacteria. Just looking at it, you can see all those pores and crevices straight away. Didn't spill one. It's so porous, we're going to have water passing through here super easy. Thought I was going to get another sponge in there, but we're actually that far from the top, so I think we're looking good. If any of you are new to the hobby as well, our filter media is the heart of our whole aquarium. It is the ceramic media that houses the majority of our beneficial bacteria, which is effectively what's keeping our fish happy. So the more of this media we've got in our tank, the smoother things usually run. Almost forgot one very important thing, clear max. It's a little bit like carbon, it'll help keep our water looking crystal clear, but it'll also remove the likes of phosphates, nitrates and nitrites as well. This will reduce our need to do water changes, so I'm just gonna pop it on top of the sponge. So we're getting to the part I'm super excited for. I need everyone to stop what they're doing, cross all your fingers for me, that this lid is going to go back on that tank with about that much space far from the wall. There's the best piece of aquatic advice you will ever get. Do your planning. With sound. So using our super cool remote. Oh, I need a battery. Can anyone tell what I've changed? I was toying with adding a Nymphea at the very beginning, and as planting had gone on, I thought I was doing my usual and putting too much in. Then I've decided I was missing something, and that is just perfectly finished it off, in my opinion. I've also trimmed the Ludwigia and some of the Limnophila, so that should grow in hopefully quite nice. Back to the light. So you can see we've got a cracking white setting, but as well as this, we've also got a mix of some very cool colours. I quite like the burnt oranges personally. On top of that again, we have thunderstorm settings. I'm personally going to sit there with this one on tonight. I'm quite looking forward to that. Last but definitely not least, we have not going to do that again. Last but definitely not least, we have Fluval's Cycle. This is the equivalent of the stability that I do usually use. As you all know, I love my Eheim products, but I'm super excited to try this one out, see how we get along. So I'll be doing daily doses of our bacteria, and this is going to give us a good head start at our nitrogen cycle. Thank you very much for tuning in. Be sure to like, share and subscribe. Costs you nothing, helps me a lot. I've got a lot more exciting videos to come. Over the next few days I'll be posting my Eheim update. It's one you definitely don't want to miss. I'll have an update for our beautiful flex in just over a week's time. And by the end of next week, I'll be posting a very special aquascape. So we've got a special guest. And as well as the special guest, I've got some very exciting news to finish on. So get your notifications on for that one. I'll see you all soon. Happy fish keeping.